Pool 5, looking at Pool 5, which it was a big weekend for Edinburgh, a big landmark that they had to, or landmine rather, they had to avoid, I guess.
Sure.
At the same time.
Well, we were bigging it up last week because just this Edinburgh team has been very, very impressive, and Cockrell's tenure there has been great. Like you were making the point off camera before that, like just you can never really judge him on a year basis because he does build things. He cleans house in a place and then kind of transforms a team in his image. And he's done the same again, and just with the calendar stacking up this year, I was impressed early doors in some of the Pro 14 games with some of their displays. I know we beat them in quite a, like, it was so surprising how kind of easy that game was over there for us as Leinster fans. But like they've been a little bit of stumbling blocks. They have had a couple of injuries that have affected them, but they've just coped very, very well. And now the season, particularly the European season, as a result of some big performances pre-Christmas, now these games are all like incremental little steps that are hurdles along in the progression that need to be overcome. One of them was going to Toulon and becoming the third ever team to win in Toulon, which is no mean feat. Yes, we will caveat that with saying this Toulon is not that Toulon.
No, indeed.
But it's all the same. Like we were fearing, you were making the point last week that we didn't see Edinburgh phased, or haven't seen this team phased yet, like just not be intimidated by an occasion and get off their game, because they're very process driven and they stick to them very well usually.
Yeah, for sure.
And this game, it was kind of no different. The Toulon effect had its effect, and it was that early try, that barnstorming Toulon try, but they never got rattled.
They never got rattled. But the only concerns that would be there for Edinburgh would be defensively, just because we've seen Toulon do it to a lot of teams where they just get on those carrying roles where they're just overpowering teams with carry after carry after carry. They can eat up a lot
of yardage that way very quickly. They can just go from one side of the pitch to the other almost immediately, it feels like, by just not doing much other than winning every single collision.
And we saw that happen to Edinburgh early doors, and then they were punished for it. It was a good Toulon try, and the later try that they got it also in the first half was also similar. I mean, it was pretty quick, but it was just huge carry off a tap and go penalty and then dotted down instantly. And it was Hamish Watson who was struggling to cope even on that occasion. I know your other man had a run up, but it was definitely tough going for Edinburgh in that first half at times. But they're very comfortable. They're very comfortable in a lot of different scenarios. They're they handled the chaos excellently in that second half. And just territory and possession wise, they controlled the game in the second half. Toulon never got a look in. They just upped it a couple of levels, played it at a higher tempo. Were wise enough, because they've had these games against Glasgow where it's been the way to beat Glasgow has been to keep it tight, to drive through the heart of them, bully their pack, show them why your pack makes up the Scotland team and Glasgow's doesn't. And that's what they did. But against Toulon, that's not where the tries are. The tries are out wide, and there was some lovely rugby. There was, the out half, Jaco van der Vault, threw some gorgeous passes off his left hand. That Darcy Graham try was great. I mean, it was good offloading all the way through. And then so too the Kinghorn try with the ever impressive James Johnston at centre, who put in that lovely little dink, and Kinghorn just ate it up. Words to be said about how that space is there off first phase.
Well, I don't know who it was, but someone shot up very, very quickly and then was completely backpedaling, and it left an embarrassing look of a retreating Bastro in furious form, but he was never going to get there. And a smiling Blair Kinghorn. But they targeted the right areas. I was just impressed with they didn't. There was no sense of surprise in them even after that early onslaught from Toulouse. Like the first 10 minutes, Toulon. The first 10 minutes in Toulon are always going to be tough, and every team should know that. No matter what state the team is in, they're going to come with a load of noise, a big swell in that stadium, and then the boys are going to try and run over you in every carry. And
absolutely,
as much as that did happen, it was their response to it that was more impressive. And they just, like we were citing yesterday, is they were the more mature team.
Totally.
And Toulon, I love that the Sevilla try as like a little illustration of just like the surprise that ball greeted him with, and then the juggle before the somewhat clumsy finish, and you're just looking at it going like, it's a try, but my God, they made hard work of it even though it was there. And I kind of felt there was a step in before that pass was thrown that was probably on, because the defence was drifting wildly out, but it doesn't matter ultimately, but it was just kind of a little nice little visual representation of what this Toulon team is getting wrong. And like it's confidence that they're lacking across the park, because none of them seem to believe in what they're doing. They're all, obviously, because they're superstars from all over the world, they're well used to playing with setups far better and far more like trophy driven, because that's what they're going to Toulon based on, that rep. And now this does not feel like a trophy winning outfit at all, and that seems to be the impression in the team.
Well, I think I did say on the podcast, don't get used to those, they're going to go on this World Cup shopping spree. One of the points that does have to be made about Toulon is that it's not in any way a well-run club.
No.
Now the debts don't really matter, because Boujela is just pouring money into it. It looks like he's going to continue to do that for the time being. But what does matter is that the guy's ego seems to run the club, and he's not actually well able to assemble a cup winning team. I mean, when they went on that 3-year run, they lucked out in a lot of ways. And first of all, the Irish teams weren't at the races at all that era. It was Matt O'Connor's Leinster and Rob Penny's Munster, and very much transition times for the Irish provinces, who are now right at their peak. Saracens were only becoming the team that we now know.
Yeah, and they were the main challengers during that reign as well, before inevitably getting theirs.
And they also looked out that one of the superstars in the world just happened to be Johnny Wilkinson, who is this ultra professional, culture developing player. Yeah. And you don't come by them every day of the week.
No, he's very much one of those once in a generation types. Totally. And the fact that they got him in their ranks, and like that was the core of that team. So Absolutely. Any superstar that came in was still going to be in awe of the professionalism of the guy.
Exactly. And he left a culture behind him that was professional in a way that they didn't quite understand, but that culture is now completely gone. Yeah. And they're bringing in, they've just made strange acquisitions. I mean, while Nanu was a good one, but there's loads of really poor choices in there. Julian Sevilla, one of them, I mean, massive name in the sport, but his form was off a cliff before he went to Toulon. Yeah. And they forked out the big bucks for the name, expecting I don't know what, him to burst back into 2012 Julian Sevilla, and it hasn't happened for him. Yeah. And there's
they have him in the centre for one thing as well most of the time.
But they had him on the wing last week. But there's loads of those little micro mistakes being made in the way the team's being acquired, just because it seems to be that Boujela selects a player and in they come, and then the coach just has to make something of it all. So that's
the mantra seems to be bigger than them as well. That's always been the case. Even when in that team with Johnny Wilkinson, I did not get off on their style of play that they'd chosen, because they were acquiring like the biggest of retirees from Southern Hemisphere that they could find, and just putting them in the team that they wanted to bludgeon over everyone. And that still is a prevailing force in their game now. It's where they go to, as far as like, this is the safety, is going try and run over a contact. And it's like, it's very un-French for one thing in terms of seeking space, but it's also like, I don't see it being tenable without that pillar like Johnny Wilkinson, like you're saying. But that team also had like Brian Habana, but there was speed in there as well.
Yeah, indeed.
This seems to be more of a hodgepodge that doesn't seem to have a point, other than that the guys are all mostly big again, and it's like it's just getting too much of that wrong, while still not having those key men in key positions to actually bring tries. And then
exactly. So like it's a hell of a tangent, because really we should be talking about Edinburgh, but just to finalise the point about Toulon, who we will never have to talk about for the rest of the season.
They're out now.
They have a huge problem stumbling block going forward, which is like, first of all, there's a lot of competition for what they're trying to do now in France. A lot of teams are going by the Toulon model of just buying the biggest stars.
We see Montpellier, we see a lot of money being spent.
Then the second thing is that they have to actually build a team, and that coaching across Europe is going up another level, and has done with Leinster and Munster and Saracens, and even a great Toulon team made up of all the great stars and your Brian Abanas and your everybody else is going to struggle to beat a very organised Saracens or Munster or Leinster, because those, I think Racing will as well when the push comes to shove, just because there's a next level coaching thinking, especially with Leinster, that's like, they're all organised, they're all singing to the same tune, and it's however starry you are, you're going to find it tough to live with if you're just in a hodgepodge club, which is what they've become.
Well, there seems to be very little character to the teams they develop, because like no one seems fully invested as far as the personnel there. A lot of times, like everyone cites things like a French club with line-out calls being all in English and stuff like that, but it always just a sense that they're there for the big payday. So if they're not enjoying the company of the players they're in and they're with and the style of play. It's only a 1-year thing, and then it's just going to be replenished with more stock next year.
Yes, yeah,
and it's just like we'll get someone else in, and like some years that will pay dividends going forward. There will be years in the Champions Cup when the winner is someone disappointing who's bought a trophy, and the team is class undeniably. But it's like, is the club building anything? I don't know. Where are the youngsters from the club or the academy they're in? Are they playing for a neighbouring club because they can't get picked in their local one? Like all of this just doesn't feed up, and like. The two best teams in the world at the moment internationally are Ireland and New Zealand, and what they've managed to do so well is get process driven from the ground up and make everything be connected.
Well, certainly from a national perspective for France, Toulon doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. But it's like it's
even from their own domestic sense, you're starting to see the holes in the idea.
Well, it's like it's akin to what's going on in the Premiership. There's a lot of talk about just the lower quality or just the lack of success, really, and talk of downsizing Europe again, which is ridiculous, but it's like also not solving the problem. It's that disconnect, the fact that the clubs have too much power relative to the national team, and just the problems that creates, because it exists in both France and England. And it's like the main stumbling block to two massive countries that are massively into rugby and have a huge playing population, but they can't like just find the route to make all of the levels and have it all be run together. And Toulon are a problem in France, but they're no longer a problem in Europe.
Indeed.
And that is thanks to Edinburgh.
Thanks for watching the Overlap Rugby podcast. If you want to subscribe, there should be a button up here. Don't forget to give us a like and share with your friends. And please leave comments down below. We love the conversation. Thanks.